Bling. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the stream. My name is Christopher Runsman, Runciman, but I sign my stuff as Run C Man. This is the one-page story extravaganza. This year's episode 149. Good Lord. I know my camera's glitching out. We're going to go buy a new camera. Lori just gave me trouble for having cheap cameras. She said, enough's enough, Christopher. Yeah, she was serious. Okay, so today is page 207, and we are kicking along. I got a cool quote up there that I found inspiring. Maybe you will too. But I do these one-page stories, these one-page story pages from suggestions and ideas of other people. And so if you have a notion, if you have an idea, if you have a wacky thing, if you want to test the bear, I don't know, suggest an idea. And we'll try to make a story out of it. Brief little thing. The page that I posted today that you see up on the screen, you'll see more of it when I get this quote off. But this is a 3-prompt page. So there's 3 words for this: marigold, periwinkle, and red panda, which I know it's technically 2 words, but you get the idea. It's kind of fun because marigolds are yellow, periwinkle's blue, and red panda, What color's that, Chris? Yeah, so it was a fun page to do. I've been doing a lot of these pages. Last year I put out a book, and it was called, I'll just show it to you. What Say You? So last year I put out this book. It was a one-page comic extravaganza, and everything's in a portrait format. And this was a lot of fun to do in all kinds of different medium. But I was really learning Photoshop. So when I look at it now, I'm kind of like, this is a really fantastic learning curve, but I really hadn't quite figured out how colors work in the robots. So, it's a different headspace than I started working with recently. All right, let's start the show off. If you want to see the original art for today's page, and I'll pop it back up again, that's on Patreon. I put all the originals up. I'll give you a quick flash of it. Woo! And this is on jelly-plated paper. And the text that's in the corner is because that was text that was on the jelly-plated surface. So I had to figure out how to incorporate a 4th element into that page, which was fun. We got people signing in and saying hi. Hey, Gary, welcome aboard. How you doing, sir? Hey, Dee, welcome aboard. How you doing, lady? Okay, so I've got some books to show you today. If you want to see the original art, look at Patreon. It's under my name. It's like $3 a month. Thank you very much to my big supporters, David and James. I really appreciate all your support. It's been really helpful. And so because of that, we're going to go buy a camera with that support. So we appreciate it so much. So the quality improve in my face, and I won't look like I've got some kind of space disease. And we've got a Substack up, and it doesn't cost anything. We're going to be putting a paying tier on it. But not yet. And we're in the process now of putting up all of the audio recordings of all of the one-page stories on Patreon right now. And Lori reads them along with me. And when she read yesterday's page, it cracked me up so much. So I'm having a lot of fun. And it's really nice to have Lori involved with me in this process. Okay. So now let's get crack-a-lackin'. I've got some books to show you. I know that I'm just trying to I've got a lot of books, so let's just roll some out each day. I don't care. I got plenty more to go. But I'll move this camera. There we go. So I'll start off with Mr. Kevin McGuire. Now, there are artists in illustration that are pretty good at facial expressions, and then there's Kevin McGuire. He is easily and by far the best person I've ever seen for having different expressions on characters' faces. And I highly recommend people looking at his work. I'm going to move this up a little bit, but look at the interactions and the faces between these characters. Like every expression on somebody's face is a legitimate idea going through that person's mind. And It just, the entire body of his work is like that. You look like you are being attacked by red bees. The bees! Yeah, I know. The camera jimmied out this morning. I've already replaced my overhead, and now we're going to get a proper... I'm spend money on a camera for the first time. Because my cameras I've been using for the last couple of years since that I've been doing this are $30 each. That's Canadian, so that's a nickel American. Yeah, so we're going to get that fixed today. And I'm sorry for the bad quality today, folks. But, you're kind of used to iffy quality in the first place. So this is one of the artists that I want to show you. So this is a book that's a special on Kevin Maguire's work. And there's some pinup stuff where he's put different characters in the same format. But he is known for this pose in comics. So anybody that basically does this sort of a setup for a team shot is emulating Kevin Maguire at this point, because he's done a number of them. You need to adjust your rabbit ear antenna. I tried to fiddle with the wire, but it was either be 10 minutes late or just get on with it. And I think that the fragility of my ego is going to be okay with looking like I'm covered in bees for the time being. Not like, it's my own silliness. So there's some pinup art. These are just great images that he does. That's him himself. So anyways, Kevin Maguire is an artist for people to look at, especially if you want to see some really good, dramatic, expressive, illustrative work in comics. So, all right, so that's our first book. If anybody wants ISBN numbers, let me know and I'll read them out to you. Now, our next book is a book that I picked up when I was on my trip in Toronto recently. Now, this is a sketchbook of Glenn Barr. And Glenn, a nice little thick sucker. Glenn Barr is one of these artists that I really, really like. I've liked him for a long time. And Glenn Barr does these beautiful little illustrations, and they're just fantastic. You keep showing me books I want to buy because I'm the devil. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you the ISBN number. All right. So anyway, so this is just a fantastic book that collects all of his sketch work that he does for these small pieces that he does. And Glenn Barr's paintings aren't massive. They're rather small. You can really see the brushwork in all of his paintings. And he works on board and cardboard. And this is Glenn Barr. He's a cool cat. Eh? But he has one of my favorite paintings of all time is a Glenn Barr painting. And I want to see if it's... I just got to find the page. Because I don't want to just go flicking through this for the next 16 hours. Anyways, the whole point of this book is just to show you all the process work behind his art. And so he's got a lot of cute girls, and he's, there's Astro Boy. He likes big robot stuff. And but he has this one drawing that he did of Jesus in I mentioned this, I think maybe yesterday, the day before, where it's Jesus in a convertible, and he's got these angels in the back seat with him, and he's just cruising, and it cracked me up when I saw this picture because it's so funny. Like, look at these street shots that he does. They're just this is a lot of fun. Philip says, "Good day, Philip. Welcome aboard." So Glenn Barr is another one of these artists that's had some degree of impact on me. So this is the series that he did that Jesus in. So maybe this will be... That's a scary spider. It's the size of the city. Yeah, I might not find it. Too bad, so sad. Yeah, there's one of his Jesus pictures. It's Jesus at the bar. Yeah, so it's a lot of these illustrations are from that series. But Phil Hill. Give me one sec. There it is. So this is a small book called Sparrow that is put out by Ashley Woods had a company that that was through IDW, and so he would put out these little collections of paintings. And so a lot of those sketches that you saw are from this painting series. And these are just crazy little paintings. But my favorite image is 5 bars in one of these pieces. And you watch me not be able to find it. No, clearly not. Yay, Chris. Okay, so anyhow, check out Glenn Barr's work. It's phenomenal stuff. On the back of this, I don't know if you can see it shining in the light, but this entire back cover is completely covered in bombs, like a high gloss printed image of bombs. Just love design elements like that. Anyhow, the next 3 things that I have to show you, and I'll be pretty quick here, guys. These aren't the ultimate representations of these people's work, but these are 3 artists who had a big impact on me. Now, Stuart Immonen doesn't normally draw like this, but this is 50 Reasons to Stop Sketching at Conventions by Stuart Immonen. And it's this fantastic little book of quick little sketch works that he did in this really cartoony style about all these situations that come up when you're at a convention, right? So it's, and you know, the things that an artist has to go through when, you know, when you're at a con, right? So it's kind of an interesting little book and little anecdotes that you get to see. Like, here, look at this lady putting her baby walking around on the table. That stuff really happens. It's a nightmare fuel. Anyhow, I've got lots of other work to show you of Stuart's, but this is probably one of the cutest things that I've seen. It's a hard one to find because it's so tiny. So now this is the master, Winsor McCay. And Winsor McCay in 1905 was drawing for a number of different, he was drawing a page a day. Those pages are the size of a newspaper sheet. So those pages, I have a full-size reproduction book of the pages of Winsor McCay doing Little Nemo and Slumberland. The problem is they are so big. That book is 2.5 feet by at least 1.5 feet at least. And that's the size of sheet that he would work on each day. And he would do, I've had this book for a long time. And he would do all these illustrations each day. Now, some of it's inappropriate today, you know, because of the Tales of the Jungle Imps was a series that he did. And, you know, cultural sensitivities have wised up a little. But so these are the pages that he would do every single day. And the graphic sensibilities of Winsor McCay were on such a complete different level as a novelty, and this is a crazy one, but as a novelty, hey Chris, welcome aboard. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up here, folks. As a novelty, Winsor McCay started overlapping drawings and having a photographer take a picture of each one, and then they would overlap the stills. And so he would go on stage and do this vaudevillian act where he had this dinosaur named Gertie that would come out on these illustrations being projected, and he would throw rocks to Gertie, and Gertie would eat the rocks. Okay, so he drew a dinosaur. He didn't know what it ate, but it's one of the earliest animations, if not the earliest, of animated films. And he would do this in a walk and talk on a stage as he's talking about to people because he was so immensely popular for his illustration work in newspapers. Some of his cartooning is, let's say, dated. Oh, yeah, for sure. But his ability is unmatched. Yeah, so the funniest thing I find about Winsor McCay is, one, there's the absolute incredible ability to draw anything. But the other part of it is he's the worst letterer in the history of comics, in my opinion. You know, because when you see how complex the art is, this little squiggle is a balloon that's so tight around the words they become hard to read. because he thought that the text gets in the way of like you try to tell the story, but you don't want the text getting in the way of the art. And so he'd do these absolutely gorgeous pages with the worst text on them that you've ever seen. So just incredible stuff. So Winsor McCay is probably, he's a pretty massive impact on me for learn to draw everything. Like here's a giant snowball fight between snowmen. Right? Like this is insane. So hello everyone. I am a rock. I am an island. Chris says, I came quickly to say hello. More exams to be at. Classes start on Monday. Oh my goodness. Thanks for stopping in, Chris. That's super cool. The only thing he was weird at was dialogue bubbles. Oh yeah, absolutely ridiculous. But so I'm a big fan of McKay stuff. I got a number of books on of him, and he's got a shelf. Like he's got a cubicle of just McKay. So just fantastic stuff. And his nickname was Silas. I don't know where you get that from, Winsor McCay. This is Jack Chambers. Now, Jack Chambers is somebody that most of you will not know. Jack Chambers is the first artist in Canada to sell a piece for more than $25,000. And he went to learn to paint in Spain and came back to London. And his work blows my mind. So this is an artist that had such a massive impact on me as a kid, seeing this artist in the same city, that it was just, he just set up a standard for me. And so this is a book that Laurie had picked me up, which is all about the light from the darkness, silver paintings and film work. So he was a filmographer as well as he was an artist. So he would do these paintings in silver paint, and he would paint them in such a fashion as different transitional things would happen as you walk around the painting, but they're basically negatives. But his ability for illustration, for painting, is so good. He's classically trained, but then because it's the 60s, he's trying to be avant-garde and to experiment with ideas, incorporating elements from his films. Just like this is a giant painting. This is at least 4 feet by 8 feet. Brian Lambert took that. I know Brian. This is one of my favorites. This is Olga and Mary visiting, right? Chambers had an idea that he called perceptual realism. And perceptual realism is the idea of how we perceive something in its allocation of time is entirely dependent on the fact of an understanding that our memory cannot be recorded just as one static image, because you remember Mary and Olga visiting on the couch, but you remember Mary sipping tea, and so he has this floating teacup with a hand in the air and a floating cup coming to his wife's mouth, floating in the air in front of her face. You remember Olga smoking, you remember Olga talking, and so all those sort of transitional elements in the course of a period of time, how do you record those? It's just a static image. It's called perceptual realism. And so he would apply that principle into a number of his paintings. So he would have a person standing and in a transitional shot that he's also painted in the same composition of the same person. It's sort of like in French avant-garde films where you would have static shots, that static jumps, a person here, person there, person there, person there, person there, and they would be hopping around. And then sometimes, is it Marceau? I can't remember who it was, the one French filmmaker in the 60s. He would have himself overlapping himself in these jump shots. So it's the same notion. But anyways, his sense of color and his sense of how you look at things and how you look at light. This is the same painting from a positive and a negative view, just from how you move at it. You see the flowers come out. So this is an artist who I really enjoy. And like here, this is the same thing again. This is called moving side and forward. So here, his wife Olga is with their son walking, but there's also this really lightly penciled in version of his son as his son was looking down at something in the grass. Right? And here's the sink that, Olga was doing dishes at the sink before the piece, so it's it's pretty interesting stuff when you think about it. And there's another image with the same. So that's oil and graphite on paper mounted on plexiglass. So he's painting on plexiglass with this. So that's Chambers, and I'm a big fan of Chambers' work, and like this is Regatta #1, and to see this in person, it's all planes, it's all layers of material, plexiglass and a framed piece of wood, and there's just so many interesting aspects to it for a graphite series of drawings. And he's drawn the boats, in negative. Like, it's just exploring how we see and how we see light, and when you look at film and you look at the positive and reverse aspect of film, which is something that millennials and beyond will never understand, because they film, right? It changes the way you look at things, so anyhow, that's Chambers. Big there he is, working in his studio, working on some film. Typical artist, hunched over a desk. And then the rest of the piece is talking entirely about his film work. So he passed away at a young age, and he died of leukemia. But in the time that he was here, massive impact on art. So, okay, so let's get crack-a-lackin'. Now, if anybody would like to join in today, let me know. Hiya, Kat. Sorry, I'm missing stuff here. Let me catch up. Gary says, I'm going to move this over. Why am I going to cross the room? Gary says, getting up to fill my kettle. Everyone, please just stop where you are and don't talk so I don't miss anything. Is he back yet? Cat says, hi, gang. Gary, you missed that. Bye, Chris. We'll see you in a bit. So that's some artists that I'm really taken by. Now, I'll show you other examples of the same creators. Like, I'll show you McKay's black and white illustration work that he did for pop ed pieces in the newspapers, which is it's a stylistically grossly different approach to illustration than his Little Nemo work. Or I'll show you some of other Stuart Immonen's other. Well, here, hold on. Let's see if I got. Well, this is. I showed some Stuart Immonen yesterday. This is. I think I did. Here's a page of Immonen. So here's some of his comic work, and you can see the far more contemporary comic style of art that he has. He's had such an impact on an industry that there's a whole slew of artists that just emulate his style at this point, which is really disappointing because that sort of diminishes his ability to get work in the industry because he's got all these cheaper replacements. So here's this one superhero character trying to eat his sandwich as this arguing couple of superhero characters are sitting on either side, and she can read minds. And so as he's sitting there quiet and pretending to be fine, she suddenly shouts, go ahead. What? Go ahead then. Go ahead and what? You're sitting there thinking all these thoughts. Just this fantastic discourse of everything that's going on. But you watch him throw his burger up in the air, and then there's a big mess on his thing. And, there he is in the center of it all. The awkward uncomfortableness of it. But all those gestures and expressions, they're just fantastic. And then at the end, of course, it ends with, that was really uncomfortable. And he mentions another character in the book. He would really have loved that. Like, that's good storytelling. And, it doesn't matter how good or bad a writer is. If the art conveys the story, you can take it so much further. I mentioned yesterday a Todd McFarlane quote. And nobody really mentioned anything about it. Todd McFarlane recently said this. Bearing in mind, I am not a 90s advocate of those creators are all geniuses. I don't agree. And I'm not I don't really care about Todd McFarlane's work for the most part. I'm not a big fan of Spawn. It's a book that has gone nowhere for years. It just cycles around the same story, but spawn people like it. So he said something recently, though, that was really interesting. He said, you can have a book drawn by Michelangelo, but written by my dog, and I can sell numerous copies of that book. But if you had a book written by William Shakespeare, it was drawn by my mom, I couldn't sell any of them. The point he's trying to make is comics are a visual medium. If you're going to be in comics, if you're going to be in sequential storytelling, if you're going to be in illustrative work, it's all about learning to move that pencil around. So, what did I say I was going to? I think I said I was going to do pencil crayon today. I don't remember. So I'm pulling out colored pencils. Why don't I just get the pencil crayons? Crayon. That's French. Pencil crayon. So I was looking at a page that I did recently in pencil crayon, and I went with some really crazy colors in it. Pencil crayon doesn't get more Canadian than that. So do you have the pencil crayons that I asked you to bring? Yeah, sure thing. I brought them over here. Here they are, eh? Yeah, that's a Canadian conversation. Bon, c'est bon. Anyways, I was looking at the colors that I did in the pencil crayon page recently, and I was like, what in the world made me use those colors? I like it. It's nice when you can look back on stuff that you've done and go, what did I do? Boy, oh boy, I had special coffee that day. Special coffee with me, by the way, is warm. It's just warm coffee. It doesn't get much more exotic than that because I ain't that exciting, Billy Bob. All right, so I'm just grabbing the colors, making sure these color sticks are sharpity darped up. So, yeah, it's going really well. Lori has been helping me a lot in getting things done for the publishing stuff coming up this week, and I'm really excited. I've asked somebody a couple of media people that I really respect, if they'd take a look at the book and give me some kind of review on it, and they're saying yes, and that just sort of kills me. So it puts you in a weird headspace. Because there are people that you grow up or spend a portion of your life looking up to, and then suddenly there's receptiveness to that. There's response to you and your engagement with them. It's a nice surprise. All right, what do we got? I have oil pastel and crayons. Nice. Chris says, I'll be drawing with oil pastel during the collaboration stream on Sunday at 9 a.m. EST on my friend's channel. I'm going to leave that. Well, I'll pop that back up again. But everybody, Chris Kalu. Chris, do you want to write down what your friend's channel is? Going to have that out in about 10 minutes. But here it is. Question of the day. Do you have a go-to person when you are stumped creatively? There you go. Hey, Jim, did you get my email? She's stalking Kobiak. I asked this because I leaned on the lovely Dr. Gary Hodges yesterday. Very helpful. Cry for Kobiak. Yeah. So, Chris, just put your friend's name up at least, and we'll try to find it through that, because I don't think you can put links up unless you're moderator. Okay, so I've got to check off some stuff that I have not been following up on checking off. So we're getting there. Now, a bunch of suggestions have come in recently from a few different sources, and I really appreciate those. But if anybody else has crazy ideas, just let me know. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with with the red panda pages. I hope people like those. I'm trying to learn a whole bunch of things about, with the whole social media thing. I'm trying to learn to be a little more on the ball about thinking about how, people are engaging with posts and all of that sort of jazz, but I'm not good at it. So I appreciate people's understanding, and I do my best to answer anything that people say, but I realize that I'm a little bit behind on my direct messages. So we'll get there. I'll catch up. Anyways, these are the 2 pages the last couple days. Very different styles in the same subject matter, relatively, with the red pandas. That's those Le Pens that I got that were the wrong color. And then yesterday's brief history. So I had to incorporate the text that was already on the page, and I feel like that went pretty cool. So these are fun in the sun, and there's images of those up on Patreon. All right. Yeah. So as usual, if there's anything else that anybody's interested in seeing, like book-wise and stuff like that, let me know. Throw out some requests for creators. I'll see if I've gotten a hold of them. I'm looking for where in the world I put my Acme Novelty Library sketchbook that I was going to show Gary, which is the actual reproduction of the sketchbook of Chris Ware. So crazy things like that. The lovely Dr. Gary Hodges. I like that you call him Doctor. I'd like to be known as Professor. Professor Ron C. Jim, I sent it Tuesday. Maybe I'm in junk. Or maybe Kobiak has got a restraining order against me. Kobiak. It's great. Okay, so, I'm sorry. I got to put up today's... What in the world are you doing, Chris? National Ice Cream Sundae Day is today's page that I'll be finishing off for. Ice Cream Sundae Day. Now, I'm going to post this for Monday. And the reason that I'm not going to post it tomorrow, I'll have it finished for tomorrow, but I'm not going to post it tomorrow, is because Saturdays and Sundays I post to Patreon and Substack. So, all right, here we go. Okay, something around my voice. That's Chris, you're crazy, man. All right, so yeah, any questions or anything like that, just let me know. I'm interested in seeing Chris Kaluuya doing some oil pastel painting tomorrow, or drawing tomorrow. I'm sorry. So I'm just gonna rough in this one of these young people here, and get down. Anyways, get down the sort of basics on the image. I think that, yeah, it's picking up. That's good. But yeah, any requests or any ideas along the way, you're more than welcome to spit them at me like hot fire. I spent the morning listening to marketing videos all morning long, right? And sitting down and writing and taking notes, because part of the process that I'm going through right now is I have got to do all this sort of stuff that involves looking for opportunities to sit down and talk about the book, and, being interviewed on things or going on other people's channels and all that jazz. And I really don't understand how all that works, in all honesty. So I'm trying to learn that stuff. And it's the least enjoyable thing that I look forward to doing in this whole process, right? So, cat is unjunked. Awkward sentence, Jim. Yeah, so here's the thing, right? Is that especially if you're an independent creator, if you're an independent writer and artist, and you're putting material out, and there's aspects of that journey, as it were, that process that you don't like, I think that it's nothing but a benefit to yourself is to work through that and to try to figure out how it can become somehow palatable to you to learn to do those things, because there's aspects of self-promotion that I am absolutely the last person to take on. And the reasoning behind all of that is that I draw, I paint, I write, I whatever material I'm using at the time, and including building or whatever else. And I'm good at that, but I'm not good at the other part, and largely because I say I'm not good at that, as opposed to giving it the proper effort that maybe I should have to see if I can do that. And so I'm forcing myself to have to learn all of these things I need to know about promoting my projects. And I feel comfortable right now at the point I'm at with what I'm doing to take on this larger venue and take on this larger market. And so because of that, I really need to step up my game and improve those skill sets, and to get rid of that negative talk in my head, to keep myself from following through on those things. And I don't know if other people have that challenge or not, because that's the thing about being a creative, is that it's one thing to be the most creative person on the planet, but a lot of the really big successful artists aren't the ones that have all the talent. A lot of the really big successful artists, and this is gonna upset somebody, but we'll work through it. Andy Warhol is not a great artist. He's just not. But Andy Warhol was a great showman and promoter, and had all that aesthetic around him, and had all of that. There's nothing about what Andy Warhol was doing that was mind-numbingly transcendent. There were so many other people doing similar things at the same time in just different ways. And yet at the same time, it was the other aspects of Andy Warhol that made him Andy Warhol. So, but the lithography of soup cans, for the first thing, he didn't print all those, right? Like, he wasn't actually leaning over the table, sweating his guts out, printing the proper lithos with, he had people doing it with him. It's not like he was weird eccentric in his basement doing it. So, but he's really good at the other part of it. He was really good at the marketing aspect and the show and the mystique and all of those things. And a lot of times those really, people to become rather successful at whatever it is that they do, they need to have some degree of that. But it's really challenging. And, it would be kind of nice if they had support groups about it. Oh, there we go. Oh my goodness. Somebody's heart is full. Look at that. Well done. Koviak. I'm going to have to play, Jim, you're going to have to send me a short of that, and I'll have to play it on the stream here for people. There's, so there's something to be said for if you're in your whole creative journey, and there are things that hold you up. I think those are really specifically the things that need to be worked on. You have to strive to overcome those. Have you ever looked into representation? I don't know. It's tricky. Is it trick to rock around? That's right on time. It's tricky. Face is looking great. Orange is tricky to see on screen. Well, let's do a different color. Let's move into a different color then. representation. Just haven't. I've had, different things say, hey, we'll do this and this for you. But every time it's like, I know what this is, and this isn't representation. This is you trying to. There's a company here in Canada that wanted to just take all of the stuff that I'd already done and reprint it. And twofold things. One, that they're not good at paying the people, the talent for their work. They're not. And then two, why in the world am I going to do all of that, with stuff that's already put out? And how about what I'm working on now? Or how about what I'm doing now? And it's not like there's any sort of representation in that fact, because then it became, and if you want us to promote it in these things, I mean, we'll split costs with you. Well, are you publishing or are you not, right? So that one went by the wayside. But we'll represent you in all these different places. And I don't know how that was representation. But as far as it goes for an agent or somebody like that, I've never tried. Bearing in mind, all the stuff that I've done up until one-page Extravaganza was regional. I never really went larger than a regional market. I never went out to different cities and promoted my book or tried to get it in different places, and I never looked at a distributor for it, and I just put it in local shops, and that was good enough. And so it's the one that I'm putting together now is really the first book that is going international. So now is the point where I need to consider things like that. So thanks for asking, Jim. But I don't have the first clue how to go about it. And if anybody does, please feel free to DM me or let's have a video chat. You can walk me through the miasma that is that mystery machine. Because to me, the whole concept of it just sounds daunting. It sounds very daunting. Right? Is that improving anything at all? Or is it just making the light weird? Oh, yeah, I'm blocking the light. Good job. Boy, oh boy. My luck's going dead. Anyway, where are we at? Okay, I'm just making sure I'm caught up here. So I'm drawing. So this page is National Ice Cream Sundae Day, and it's from Chris Reamer. If you ever get an opportunity and you're looking at my Instagram, when Chris Reamer makes comments on pages, it'll be 2:00 in the morning and he'll comment on like 3, 4, 5 pages at once, and I'll just leave these comments on it, and every time it wakes me up. Every time I'm like trying to process these things, half awake. It's really funny, and they're always fun things. So there's other people that'll like they'll just get me as soon as I post it, like pow, and I'm like, I didn't see that coming. So I'm not, so I've got a green here inside where these eyes I'm putting down with a red and a green in order to build up that dark value instead of going, using any black in the face right now. I just like building up that surface. And I'm sorry, again, we're going camera shopping because Lori said, enough of that, Christopher. That's how she said it. She's serious. That was serious business. That was serious. Look at this camera, for goodness sakes. Look at this. Look at that. What am I doing? Come on. I'm curious if there's anything that anybody that might be watching the stream here today, is there any aspect of self-promotion or even releasing your work out into the wild, you know what I mean? Like as far as it goes for representing yourself, or is there anything that anybody else has an issue with that? Like Jim, have you had a hard time about looking into representation? Have you? Have you ever pursued that path? And I recognizing that, what Jim's doing specifically is very different from what I'm doing because it's a different media primarily. But how tricky has that path been for folks? I saw something recently. Somebody posted about how a $30,000 advance after expenses and an agent and things like that, in the course of time that it takes them about 18 months to do a 200-page book, when that's all said and done and worked out, what you're actually getting paid off $30,000 advance on a book is about $600 a month. And that's rough, but so, of course, the expectation is all in the sales and in, what do you call that? This sort of permanent revenue stream generator. What is that when it comes back in each month? You get a little check or a subsidiary check or something like that. So that's challenging. That's really challenging, and I'm sure that there's a great few people that read that and were disheartened. And I don't mean anything by it, and it sure isn't a judgment on that creator because I really enjoy this creator that posted this thing. But the first thought that went through my brain is work faster, just because I'm a lunatic, right? Recognizing completely the fact that I'm crazy. So Jim said, for years and years, I felt like I needed representation, but I'm more likely to find a magical fairy in a unicorn garden. Where is that? And no, that was not a Gary slur. Oh, thank goodness he's laughing. We're all safe. Publicly thanking you again, Gary. Great story advice yesterday. Nice. Joke's on you, Jim, because my mom always told me I am magical. So I was interviewed once, and somebody asked me it was a very serious interview, and a person said to me, so what is it that made you pursue this path? And I legitimately, because I'm a ding-dong, I said, well, my mom said it's pretty good. And that sounds funny in person, but when you see it in print, you sound like an idiot. And they printed it. My mom says it's pretty good. It's like, oh, man, I got to stop saying dumb things in public. This is not easy to do for me. Chris says, go on, got to go, exam time coming. Thanks for stopping in, Chris. Have a great day. Have a good exam. She's gonna sit there. Everybody be quiet, put your heads down on the desk and listen up. That's not at all, she said. Chris would be a cool teacher to have. Unless she catches you chewing gum, spit it out, right? That's what you have to do. To semi-respond to the topic, the more time and energy I spend on promotion and plugging, the less I enjoy the creative process. So I've kind of decided not to emphasize that until I finish all 6 DVSMs. Yeah, I mean that's the great challenge, is that it's one thing to create, it's one thing to pursue a form of expression. It's another thing to take that someplace else, or to take that out into the world. And how does one really do that? And there's people that have a great affinity for it, and a friend of mine is a writer, and he has no ability for drawing. He writes, and he is phenomenal at it. He is phenomenal at all of those ticks and boxes that one needs to do for the promoting part. And he said to me, writers are better at this. And the reason that writers are better at it is because the crux of a work in a visual medium is entirely on the artist. And so the writers should really pick up on their end some of that lifting, but it doesn't mean that the writer should not be able to do it. Which I went, I know, but it was an interesting headspace on it. I don't know. It's something that we all got to figure out. In order to build that up and to drum that up, it's a lot of work. So one of the ways I thought I could improve my promotion, my self-promotion for myself, is every time I go any place, I'm going to kick the door open and jump in and go, "Get to know me!" And that's how I'm going to enter every room from now on. Jim said, "I've had a few meetings with different production companies and such, but I've never had a serious meeting with a person to be my agent." Yeah, it's just the whole notion of it to me seems so... somebody put up, "Hey, apply with this company because they've just had some openings come up for representing people, and this might be your chance to get represented by an agent." And as I read this and I'm like, "Man, I'm not doing that." I wouldn't even know how to go about doing it. What do I do? Forget it. And I talked myself out of it, and I've kind of kicked myself about it since, right? So I'm having to learn how to do a lot of stuff on my own. But honestly, we really should know how to do all that stuff ourselves anyhow. So it'll all come together. Things will get figured out. I think that it's always interesting to me when somebody as talented as somebody like Jim doesn't have somebody that's going, "Hey, sit down at that desk and draw, monkey." See, again, I don't know what an agent does. Like, you see Hollywood depictions of agents and, slimy. But, "Hey, yeah, baby, go ahead, do some drawing. Yeah, I'll tell everybody I like it your way. Yeah, you're number one. You're top of the world, kid." And they massage your shoulders and they say creepy things to you and make you feel uncomfortable. That's how it looks on television. That's how it looks in movies. So that might be an unfair depiction of it. I'm pretty sure it is. So I'm just playing with the values here. This is the set of studio pencils that I've talked about before, that none of the colors of the lead has anything to do with the color that's at the end. It sort of guesstimates it, but it's never the same. So it's always a tricky thing to be working with these. So this is a very yellow green that I'm using here, even though it's depicted as a nice darker green on the end of the pencil. So it's really a case of looking at the front, not at what's promoted as being the actual value, because it's a lie. And I'm just exploring those colors and that light throughout the image. So today's page being National Ice Cream Sundae Day, first thing I got to draw is a kid shamming ice cream into his yapper. Those are biological terms. That's science for you. That's some cool hard science. If I don't know about how other people work, but if I'm drawing in pencil crayon, oftentimes I will pick random colors to draw areas with, because like this is this weird kind of light green yellow that I'm putting these contours in of this ear and some of the hair. And it's kind of finding those little values inside, those little colors that are embedded inside the surface, because our face and our skin isn't just one value. No matter what shade of skin we might have, it's never just one value. It's this fantastic menagerie of different light and colors bouncing off our surface. So, and at the end of the day, if you want to draw yourself with weird colors and weird values, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I would recommend looking at artists like Egon Schiele is a guy who would draw with, random colors and stuff, and pretty fantastic and different aesthetic to it as well because of that. It's one of my another one of my big favorite guys is a young man with Sheila's work, and it's really dark and morose, and everybody's gaunt and the sort of the physical forms are all this sort of really gawky and badly like it's not bad proportions, but it's those aren't healthy people. It's really showing the knuckles and yet at the same time, absolutely beautiful depictions of people. It's the kind of thing that if you ever draw a live model and you're a very stylized artist, don't show the models your work. Because while you might be like, I'm a big fan of Sheila or something like that, and they'll just look at themselves and, you've really drawn them somewhat and not in their best light. And, it takes a certain personality to strip nude and stand in front of a bunch of random people. You tend to hope that they're doing nice depictions of yourself. So I'm just, putting in that hairline. I've switched the orange again. I don't know why. If it's still hard to see, I can switch to another color. Let's put some red in there. But it's just finding that form, finding those contours. Not really thinking of things as line, but thinking things as shapes and as volumes. So. Yeah, this one page that I drew recently, it had these really weird, almost like a gold color, like running throughout it, and I just couldn't get over it. Does anybody know how to go about getting representation? Like Jim has met with a couple of people at different points, or you've talked to? A few meetings with different production companies, yeah. And see, I could have been really cheeky with this and said, well, the one time I ever went and talked to an agent, I walked into his office and I said, have I got the act for you? And the agent said, okay, kid, get up on the stage and show me. And then I described the worst possible things that I can think of. And at the end, I go, aristocrats. Yeah. Don't look that up. Don't look up the aristocrats. Don't do it to yourself. You're going to be scarred emotionally, and I'll feel responsible. Don't look at the Gilbert Gottfried version or the Bob Saget one. Don't look at those versions of that joke. I know that you're really tempted because I've mentioned a couple of them specifically by name, but don't do it. Huh? Let me just take a moment to be like a drug commercial in the 1980s. Don't do it. So rather than using black, I'll take an umber color like you just saw me put down, and I'll go into it with like an ultramarine blue or a really deep blue. And, like the green and red complementaries that were canceling each other out inside these eyes here, that I also went over with some brown. As I go through with the blue now, it really deepens that value. It's not a black, though. At best, it's like a charcoal, right? But I find that I prefer, when I'm doing a color piece in pencil crayon, to build up that way. First life drawing class I was in, when the model disrobed, the girl next to me said, he sure looks different without his glasses. I laughed so hard, I thought I would get kicked out for sure. How old were you when you did that, Kat? The first time I drew a nude model, I was 14. I think Jim's path to representation would be to start hitting all the animation festivals. Oh yeah, he should definitely be shown far more. He should be shown and celebrated far and wide. In fact, we're going to be entering, whether Jim likes it or not, because I'm doing voice work in the film he's working on now. We're going to be, just from that alone, we can put it in the London, the Forest City Film Festival here, and get him to, be played here in the city here, in London, Ontario. London, Ontario. First year university for Kat. See, I was 14, first time I drew a nude. Almost 15, and I didn't know anything like when we were getting set up to do this, and so where I put my easel and the paper, and there's the stage, and the model wasn't on it yet, and so when the model came out and sat on the stage, and here's this young prepubescent, I was a late bloomer, right down the barrel. That's all I'm saying, and that was a rather uncomfortable session for me. But I learned a lot. That's the day I became a man. No. It was just, yeah, I was not really ready for that. But you do your best. You put your brave face on. Nice to meet you, ma'am. Yeah, it doesn't go well. First life drawing class I took would have been first year of college, so 18. I was in high school when I did, I was still in high school. Grade 10. So maybe 15. I might have been 15. I wish I had I will later, but I wish this camera picked up color better because I'm really enjoying some of these weird color combinations, and I don't think that they're showing up very well. But we'll fix that. We're going to fix it. Anybody ever walk out of a life drawing class or get told to leave because you were giggling or something silly? Anybody willing to fess up to that old chestnut? Younger, somebody's always getting asked, okay, out in the hall. Come on, man. It's an important part of things if you want to draw people. Is to figure out how people's form works. The first lady that I drew, she was full-figured. And, I'm going to be honest, it's far better first model at the very least, but far better for a person starting out to draw somebody who hasn't got like that whole supermodel aesthetic, or some people want to look like the perfect figure types, and draw real people. I have my game face on in life drawing. Is it this face? How's it going, Gary? It's going very good. Thank you very much for asking me. I don't remember anyone being booted. I do remember one of the models being a little input. That's funny. When my oldest was a baby, and this is the one that's turning 32 this year. When she was a baby, we had a babysitter that would come over and watch her so that I could, go get some stuff done. And she was a nude model. And so people I knew were like, so do you ever get her to model for? I'm like, no, she's a babysitter for us, man. Thanks. Yeah, but, but nothing. She's our babysitter. But she's there to watch the child. And I'm not there. That's the whole point of her being there. Yeah, so. Some arrogant male models make it hard to stay. Perhaps I should have phrased that differently. Heavier people are to be trickier to draw. It's easier to break down the anatomy of a fitter person. Larger folks have lots of shapes and curves. Okay, I got a book to show you. I'm going to show you something fun. Dear Lord, cat. Okay, so there is an artist that I recommend everybody go check out. Now, Blue Line Pro, which is the guys that make the comic pages, they had some tutorial stuff that they would do. And so the artist that would do those is a guy named Mitch Bird. And I love Mitch Bird's work. I own all of his sketchbooks, and I got his different stuff. But Mitch Bird has this fantastic way of exempling how to go about drawing form. And I mean, here is a Tarzan strip with a full-figured lady here. And it's just because he's come to a real understanding about how to draw form and volume and shape. The tree has this sense of dimension to it. The dinosaur has a sense of dimension. This female figure he's drawing in each of these panels has a sense of dimension. The branch that she's running along here, the vine that she's holding, all of it has to have some degree of understanding for dimension. And so when he draws figures of different sizes, and he does this, he'll draw this same character recurringly. Give me a sec. Is it up here? Where did I put my other? Okay, comics. Maybe it's actually what I'm looking at. Okay, give me a second. So, anyways, he talks about, this is his Mitch Bird's Women, Dinosaurs, and Random Illustrations. And so how Mitch draws dinosaur shapes are just absolutely elegant. Let's think when I said I remember an inappropriate model once. He slapped his own butt at one point. Oh my gosh. He also had a giant tattoo of a parrot on his butt and thigh, full color. He only posed once and he made an impression. Oh, geez. So here's, I think it's up here. So Mitch Bird, as he draws different, like, look at this. He's putting dinosaurs in the context of regular city streets and stuff like that. Just an absolute wonderful artist. But when he draws form, he explores all kinds of different shapes. Like, you can see the weight of the body and the torso here and how it sits, and he talks about, it's one thing to draw the skeleton. It's another thing entirely to draw the flesh that sits around it. So, here's got different characters here. They got some volume to them. He's just one of those artists that is so good. There's your more superheroine type figure. It's just whatever you're going to draw, try to understand the weight of it. Okay, here we go. Here's some of his characters. There's a rather thin lady, thin vampire. I highly recommend you check out Mitch Bird's work. So here's a few different characters of different size that he's got working in the studio environment. This is part of his. These are pages. These are illustrations that were used for some of his tutorial stuff. Okay, so here he is talking about form and space, and how this person here sits in the foreground, and then because you've got this woman flying through the environment, you've got to make sure that parts of her body sit over top of images in the background. You've got to make sure that things in the foreground sit over top of her, allowing different representations of physical form. so that people aren't just locked into everybody looking static in the same shape. And, Mitch Bird, I highly recommend people check him out. There's your beefcake muscular guy. Just a lot of really good stuff. See, there he goes. Look at all the different representations of build. It's good stuff. Mitch Bird. Wish that guy drew more comics because it's so good. I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm sorry for that. Are you drawing the tattoo too? Get out. That to me is harder to draw well. Yeah, form is tough. Fantastic human form illustrations. Yeah, Mitch Bird is definitely one to look up. And his whole bent is cowboys, ladies, and dinosaurs. So that's his big three. And he does them all very well. But it's good. It's kind of like a really solid class in how to represent different form and volume with lines. So it's one of those things that, from an illustrative viewpoint, you really need to have a solid grasp on just the foundation of that, so that when you are depicting whatever it is that you're depicting, because you have that solid foundation or basic understanding in how shape and form and volume and function, all that stuff works, you can focus more on the storytelling part, which is really the meat and potatoes. That there's the meat and potatoes. So, and even when I'm drawing, my weird way of drawing without any kind of framing structure as I go, it has a lot to do with sort of having that. It's a weird, I can't explain it well. It's almost like I see it, but I don't put it down. I can't explain it. It's there. I just don't necessarily make those marks on the page. But you got to still have a kind of a comprehension of it, right? Well, maybe tomorrow I'll start trying to find representation. I think I'll start really simply. I'll open my front door. Yep, here, agent. Let's see if that's how I'm going to start. I'm going to try that first. If that doesn't work, I'll have to look into how you do it properly. I don't know. So I got this little guy just going to town and eating some ice cream here. So this is my palette, by the way, if anybody wants to see that. No, the green isn't necessarily green. This is more like this weird kind of yellow, kind of like an ochre color to it, right? So, the things that we choose for making our marks with, play with it, have fun with it, draw things using the wrong colors. Kind of gives them a different buzz, different kind of a vibe to it, or lean into those colors, maybe like lean into, blue spots in the hair. What's basically this kid's going to be basically a redhead, but by throwing these blue elements in there, when I start putting some of this brown into it, then it just deepens it out. It stops being a blue or a brown, and yet at the same time both those values are in there. So you got to play with it a little bit. I watched one of these marketing videos. It was this really funny person that said, you got to do whatever you can do to make things happen. And they had this sort of I don't know, Midwestern American sort of a sound that you don't hear very commonly up north here. And he said, I'm not talking about throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, but I'm talking about getting out there in the marketing world and making a tussle. And I don't think I've ever heard that before. Making a tussle, having a tussle with it. You got to get in there and tussle. I'm like, what in the world is tussle? Is anyone here tussle? Can you tell us what that is? So I'm going to put, at this point, I think I want to switch up and put in this big wad of ice cream that this kid's going to try to shovel in his face. And then I got to finish, the whole handhold. Spoon or whatnot, So just putting down shapes and making some marks. Building up the form. I tend not to make a line for the whole shape, especially because I think that pencil crayon is a pain in the butt to illustrate, or I'm sorry, to erase in your illustrations. It's the same for colored pencils. There we go. I like how people say pencils. Cracks me up. So here's the big wad of yum stuff for your face. Let's put some on his face. You can't have a kid eating without wearing some of what he's eating. Yeah. There we go. Pencils. Yeah, Didi says it better. Didi's a pencil expert. Pencils. I didn't know you guys called pencil crayons colored pencils down in the States. I didn't know that. I thought you guys were as cool as we are. Actually, I didn't know that there was a difference in expression. But then again, there is a great deal of things that are very different. Between the two countries, that's for sure. In a yawn, make it count. So just working up these shapes in the face and the kid got to stretch his yapper in order to get all that ice cream in there. You know what that means? It's a good way to keep him quiet. Diddy, were you here for Jim's question earlier about representation? Have you ever pursued representation? Or me? Yawn machine today. Good heavens. I'm just a yawn machine. If I went into an agent's office and I started singing, represent my love for you, right? And they don't sing along, then they're not the one for me. I know it's Celebrate, but I'm switching it to Represent for this song. Where are we at? I say color pencil. I'm not pencil crayon, but I may be influenced by streamers from the South, just saying. Not even just saying. Something that's I hear a lot of from some of our Southern streamers. But, you learn in life. Like I thought every time we made a joke, it ended with, but that's because I, watching Dukes of Hazzard a lot when I was younger. Jim's question was, have you ever sought out representation, Dee Dee? Yeah, that's. Have you ever actively sought out representation or been in talks with somebody? I'd like to represent you. You've got a certain, as the French say, I don't know what. Let's make you a star. Just sign right here in blood on this line. Now, if you could just take this, go in the other room, pinprick your oldest child, and get their signature as well, in blood. In blood. I don't know if I'd be a very good client for an agent. I think I might be too much of an anarchist. All right, it's coming along. I have moved 30 times in my life, and I have worked 15 or more jobs, and I never did art full time until I retired. Well, I didn't move as much as you. I did move, I don't know, probably about 8 times, but I don't know how many jobs I've had. I generally had 3 jobs at a time in my life. But I've only retired to do this full time since 2021. And I never even considered it. Like, I never thought about that until Jim just mentioned it. Because I'm too, have you thought about this? Why? What's in it for you, huh? What are you talking about? Yes, I'm too much of a lunatic for me. I had creative jobs and always did art on the side. Oh, yeah, everybody. Yeah, you got it. Now I do full time. Now I do art full time, commissions, and stream. Nice. Yeah, I think that it's very obvious in your facility for art that you got some years of it under your belt. That's for sure. And it's funny. In order to make a go, a lot of times as an artist, you got to do things like what Josh Kimball had. Was an art director, and I was a production manager of a photo studio and managed a comic store and done all kinds of design work and different. You always do those commissions that. But I got some of mine are weird. Like I design a funerary facility. Just weird stuff like that. Edie says never needed a rep. It wasn't the type of art I needed rep for. Well, I mean that's the thing, right? Like you got to find an art like a rep that reps what it is that you do, and maybe those don't exist in some circles, right? Like a friend of mine was a textile artist. Well, they still are, but they had a hard time finding somebody to that worked in the gallery system to help them find gallery bookings and stuff like that, because he was a textile artist, and they're like, yeah, no, the galleries really don't want knitting and crafts, and meanwhile this guy's doing full sculptures, like he did he does full sculptures of people and knits the fingers, but the crazy thing is he incorporates text going all the way around the body, and it's like, it's fine art. He just happens to use this medium of knitting to create these pieces, and it's incredibly elaborate work. So yeah, never needed a rep for work for creative publishing and as a visual merchandise. Yeah, so we all of us do that. We do these jobs where, like, it's not specifically the thing that you do when you're at home, but it's very much so a thing that you're doing in an expressive field, because that's in you. You gotta do that. You gotta express yourself. If I can quote Madonna. So there's a piece by Baron Story. He did beautiful work in. They did a Sandman book that follows. It's called The Endless Gallery, and it's Milo Manara and Dave McKeon and Bill Sienkiewicz and Baron Story, and they all do different narratives about each of the endless characters from the Sandman mythos, and he does despair, 16 images of despair, and it's all of these pictures that are just different interpretations of this representation of despair in the universe. And I was thinking along those lines as I'm drawing this, that maybe, National Ice Cream Sundae Day should just be a whole bunch of pictures of kids just shoving ice cream all over their face. Because that's what it would be anyways, that's what it amounts to, really. It's messy eating, messy yum-yums. I painted landscapes and Alaskan animals while living there, never to be in a gallery. Yeah, it's tricky, right? Like, there's a sort of weird assumption out there that, well, everything that people do is fine artists. Well, so you're putting that in a gallery? No. Well, yeah, but, so what are you paying for? And say, you don't have to do, like, people just don't understand that sometimes that it's not about that. It's about creative exploration, Sometimes it's about, I'm painting because I'm painting. Stop looking for some deeper thing in that. Like, everything doesn't have to be marketable. How many people get these NFT things? Hey, I really like your work. I like what you're doing there. Contact me and we should talk about it. And then you look in their profile and it's like NFT collector. It's like, forget it. Get out of here, you crazy NFT nonsense. Give me $10,000 and I don't know, and do something bizarre and on a piece of paper, and then we'll put it in an envelope. You never even get to look at it. Ha, ha, ha. I don't know how you do that. So I'm just giving this kid some hair. They tend to have some on top of their noggins. Yeah, it's coming along. Phil says, I've had that a few times. Yeah, you don't need to rep this out. Maybe books or comics, but those aren't what I do. I don't know. See, if you can get picked up with a place that has distribution modes built into it, you don't need that representation. Diddy's iPad hates her. Oh no. Have you thought about giving it some flowers? Just for no reason. Give your iPad some flowers. I would love it. Maybe its attitude will change. I don't know how robots work. It kind of comes across really yellow in the camera here. The kid's got great hair. It said she did. It didn't help. I'm sorry, iPad. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Bought you this here box of chocolates. What's that? You don't have a mouth to eat it with. How can I be so inconsiderate? I can't win. This kid needs a comb. Have you tried just telling your iPad it looks pretty today? I like drawing with pencil crayon. Colored pencils. I honestly kind of always want to do it more. You got other kinds of things you got to keep up on. Today I'm good. I can draw in colored pencil. Tomorrow I cannot help but put all kinds of other different materials in there. Did anyone answer yes to Jim's question? No. No, Gary is going to finish his 6 issues of DVSM before he considers pursuing that avenue. And I think I might be too much of a disagreeable lunatic to do it. It's hard, because you got to get your work in front of people to say, hey, look, doesn't this look good enough for somebody to help represent and promote? But at the same time, you got to get stuff done. And that's the tricky part. I don't know. I'm going to go out and stand at the side of the street and put my foot out and see if, an agent pulls up and says, well, hey there. You got something there, kid. A je ne sais quoi. So Corbin's been sleeping in the studio all day long. And literally just before I was about to start streaming, he goes, oh, okay, I'm going to go upstairs now. What a troublemaker. All right. Well, let's get some more of this structure in here so that you get an idea of where it's going to go. Got my squeaky chair going on in full effect today. Boy, oh boy. Now, I know I had mentioned earlier this week about having anybody that wants to come in and join as guests on Friday. I'm going to be honest with you. I forgot to mention that again to people at the start of the stream and see if people want to join in, and I apologize for that. I also could consider talking about some cool sci-fi stuff I came across and forgot to do that too. So, I'm a complicated guy. That's why my friends call me Whiskers. Well, I wish they would. And they'd say, hey, Whiskers. And I go, Hello. You rang? Only ever use the expression "you rang" if nobody's actually pressed any kind of doorbell. That's the best time to use that. When you look up pencil crayon, the definition is colored pencil. Yes! Canada! We win! It's just a cooler way to say it. That's what that means. So just gonna put this kid's little outfit on here. Yeah. I think this kid really likes ice cream. Maybe. We'll see. This is the kind of image of a person that's like, oh my God, I can't believe you took that picture. I drew that picture. Ah, ah. So yes, that's coming along. I'm pretty pleased with it. Just got to get in a little bit more of the all the little bits, all the bits. That's what I call them, the bits. You know, the fun stuff. Where are we at? I gotta wrap it up in a few minutes because I've got to go and take my mother to St. Thomas. It's a little city that's on the outskirts of our city that's kind of acts like a suburb of this city. Although they won't admit it. Oh, we're our own place. And like 40% of 30% of people that live there work here. It's pretty bad. When I was a kid, I wanted Laurentian pencil crayons so badly, but I got a no-name brand. See, I've got both. Like I used some Laurentians yesterday, and honestly, pencils like Crayola, Studio, I kind of like these too. Like there's certain colors that with Laurentian though that, like you can draw with white Laurentian pencils in so many crazy surfaces, and it works so much better than a lot of other brands. Because some white pencils and different brands are just the worst things ever. Can't make a mark on anything. It's just wax. And not the Miyagi kind, if you know what I'm saying. I have to put some ice cream on this kid's gear here and have some fun with this. What are we at? We're at 138. Oh, yeah, I'm pushing it. Okay, okay, so we got a good start on National Ice Cream Sunday Day. And I'll get this finished up and I'll have it posted for Monday. Now, I might stop in on the weekend at some point, but for the most part, I got a whole bunch of paperwork and a whole bunch of other stuff I got to get done this weekend for things. And listen, I hope everybody has a good weekend and that you're able to get some time in there and do some creativity. There's a thing I was reading recently about how whatever it is that you're trying to do, if don't let it hold you back. Like for me, it was a lot of paperwork stuff that I'm doing right now that has honestly been something that's been holding me back from getting stuff to where I want it to be. And I've spent the entire day taking that on, and I feel really good about it now that I've got some handle on that. So that's why I put the quote up at the start that says, I got to read it because I can't remember it. The quote I put up at the beginning says, "You must understand that there's more than one path to the top of the mountain." Miyamoto Musashi. So, I don't know if that helps anybody, but I hope it does. But yeah, fantastic drawing, fun stream. Catch y'all later. Thanks very much. Thanks, Kat. Good to chat with you. Have a good weekend, everyone. Philip came back for the end. There we go. All right, so yeah, I'm going to sign out. Thanks very much for hanging out. I'll get to finishing this by Monday. We should have a prettier picture with the shiny new, you know what I mean? So in the meantime, thanks everybody for tuning in and watching, and I hope you have a great time and do some fantastic creative things. And I'll be back on Monday at 2 p.m. EST. Don't forget to watch Chris Coulee on, contact her today and find out what her friend's name is that she's going to be on their channel. And check it out. But she'll be drawing at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning in oil pastels. And so that should be pretty cool to see. In the meantime, I will see you on Monday. Bye for now.